Everyone would please stand for the invocation. Let's pray together. Father, as we approach this time tonight, we realize that there is a God in heaven who has already told us that if any of us lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives it to all men liberally and upbraideth not. Father, tonight we need your wisdom. We need your insight. We need your direction. Help our city's leaders and help our citizens to do that, Lord, which would honor you and be good for all the people. And Father, we thank you for Jesus, our Savior, and we thank you that through faith in him, we can have absolute assurance about today and about eternity. And we give you thanks for all your goodness to us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is approval of minutes from September 18, 2018 regular session. Call for a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 18, 2018 regular commission meeting.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 4, approval of the September 2018 financial report. Call for a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the September 2018 financial report.
Motion has been made and seconded. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item number 5 is public hearings. Since there's so many of us here tonight, I'm gonna make a statement. Everybody in this room is welcome to speak, but you're only allowed to speak as to what the public hearing is about. No more. We're gonna start with, resolution 18-R-04B, annexation of Robertson County map 126, parcel 059.00, on written consent of the owners and to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Millersville. I'm now open for public hearing. And this parcel is on South Swift Road. Is there anyone that wishes to speak?
My name is Paul Fuquay. I live at 2372 South Mount Pleasant Road. I guess starting at the beginning, my mother, who lives at 27
You do know this is on South Swift around Turner's Bend.
Turner's Bend, where is Turner's Bend?
It is not ours.
Okay, South Swift is what? There's Swift Hollow, there's Swift Road.
It's South Swift up near Town Holloway. This is one parcel, one small lot.
Okay, I'll hold my comments for later.
I just want to make sure you're speaking what you want.
Right, I understand.
Is there anyone else? All right, I'll close that public hearing. The next public hearing is resolution 18-R-05B, annexation of 26 acres, portion of Robertson County map 125, parcel 177.00, and map 125, parcel 085.00, upon written consent of the owners and to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Millersville. I'm now open for public hearing.
I'm Paul Fuquay. I live at 2372 South Mount Pleasant Road. I learned of the annexation plans. My mom lives at 2177 South Mount Pleasant Road, and she told me that there were signs up and down our road on South Mount Pleasant Road. Well, you know, I go to work and I come home and I don't, you know, I'm not really paying attention to signs that are placed on the ground kind of off the road. And so I saw, you know, after she alerted me to those signs, I went and read the signs and then came down here and got some information. So I know there've got two issues here, right? We have annexation and rezoning, correct?
We're dealing with annexation on.
Okay, all right. So when will the rezoning,
The
portion?
first reading will be later on tonight, and then there will be a public hearing at the next regular,
And that will be,
third Tuesday of next month.
okay, all right. Well, the annexation issue, and I need to tell all these folks here, and I'm gonna, I'll turn it over to someone else in just a moment. There is voluntary annexation, correct? The city of Millersville reached out to Leanne Barron.
No, sir.
Well, I have information here from Leanne Barron that says she was contacted by the city of Millersville. Okay, I have her email here, and I can produce that to you. That says she was contacted by the city of Millersville, and if you will look at smokybarn.com, there's a letter to the editor from her that says she was contacted by the city of Millersville about an annexation project. Now, I'm just repeating what's on. If you want to pull up Smoky Barn on your phones, you've seen that, right? People have seen that? Yeah.
Yep.
She said she was contacted by the city of Millersville about an annexation project.
Does she now wish to contact the property?
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
I don't know where she is. I mean, she's not here, obviously. She lives at 1600 Linden Avenue in Nashville. I mean, I don't know where she is. I mean, did you ask her to?
The only thing that I can tell you is this board did not contact me.
Okay, the board or the city of Millersville.
Mike,
I have a copy of it.
hang on.
Mr. Mayor, I've never had a conversation or contact with Ms. Barron. My only contact has been with her husband, Jay Barron. The city, he owns multiple parcels within the city. And earlier this year, they rezoned some of his parcels from residential to light industrial when they are out near the racetrack. During those conversations, during the rezonings, Mr. Barron expressed interest in sanitary sewer service at some of his other properties that the family controls. Now, it's titled in Ms. Barron's name, but I've only dealt with Mr. Barron through this. And in those conversations, Mr. Barron asked how he could get utilities from the city. Since I believe any of his plans or any of his thoughts would require municipal services, including the sanitary sewer which the city can provide. That being said, we've had conversations over the last 6 months about annexing. It was mentioned to him that we had another annexation request for the city, and I offered to him at that time if he would be interested in annexing now or wait until they have a development plan. And Mr. Barron expressed interest in annexing at this time.
Now, the property is in his name or in Leanne Barron's name?
The property is deeded in Leanne Barron's name. Leanne Barron was the applicant. I have a signed and notarized application from her that I can be more than happy to provide a copy if that's what you like. Again, another public records request would be appropriate.
I'll just give you a copy of an email Leanne Barron sent.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to call a point of order. This is public hearing, this is very loud, anything. So I think we should go ahead and let the citizens who would be free to speak.
So do you want to hear the information that she said?
Not particularly because she has asked the city to be annexed into our city. She's not here to respond to what you have to say. If you have issues with annexation, that's what we want to do.
So just a point of order. We have Mr. Barron, who you had a conversation with, correct? Not Leanne Barron.
She is the one that has made the request.
Okay, in writing.
A letter and a signed application that was notarized.
Okay, all right. I'm just a little confused. It says I was notified by the city of Millersville that an annexation project was planned for the area and the additional water and sewer resources would come as an eventual result. I consented. This is her words, not mine.
Well, actually, the state uses that term.
I consented to the annexation because I believe infrastructure improvements are a good thing for everyone in the community. Very nice for her to think about us, up on the bridge, her living in a $1.2 million mansion in the Belmont area. And I know that's not, I know you say, well, that doesn't matter.
If you have something you want to say to the annexation, they say it.
Right. Well, I'm opposed to it because of what it eventually will bring. You know,
I have no way of knowing what it's going to mean.
well, I know that, and that's why there's no guarantees, and that's why we're against it, because we don't want to have a high-density R5 residential development in our area. We don't want that. Those county roads were never designed for heavy traffic, okay? And I think we'll all agree R5 is, and I've never used the word tract homes, but it is high density, correct? 6 to 8 homes?
It's the highest density we have.
Right.
I believe it would be up to 4 acres.
It's essentially quarter acre lots.
So quarter acre, so you're talking 4 houses per acre, correct? Yes. Okay, all right. Well, again, the point is traffic, pollution, and pollution is a number of different things, light pollution, noise pollution. Yesterday morning, I was at that property and I sent everyone just a video of the water that drains off of that property. And it's hundreds, if not thousands, gallons a minute. And so I took a lot of pictures, took a lot of videos of the water samples. So here's a question I have for the board. You annex this property and it just happens to have all this storm water. How will the city of Millersville contain that storm water?
The city, that will be requirements put on the property owned by the city and the state. It requires city permits, it requires state codes. I would be, any development that comes in there or should come in there in the future, I'm sure be required to have retention. Every time you put in a retention pond, you're eating up acreage. Every time you eat up acreage, you're eating up the amount of houses. Every time you put in a road, you're eating up acreage. You're eating up the amount of houses that are going to develop, if that's what comes. And I spoke with a gentleman this morning, just like I told him, as of right now, White House Water District will not sign off on any development out there with the water the way it is. That's a $3 to $6 million upgrade. There is the water from the interstate out there. The city's not gonna pay for that. That's either gonna be done through state dollars or it's gonna be done through development dollars. That development will never generate enough profit to warrant spending that.
Well, and again, a point of just information. The people that live out in that area, how many people have seen them out measuring for those larger water lines? Have you seen people out there? Raise your hand up.
Yes, it's a study done by GNRC.
GNRC was contracted by Robertson County's Economic Development Group and the Industrial Development Board to study the utilities for the lack thereof on the West Bethel Road corridor. And that study is just wrapping up, and it should be ready for release pretty soon. We expect literally probably a few weeks on that. But that study has examined especially the deficiencies in domestic water. It's also generated an estimate of upgrading that water. But ultimately, it's White House Utilities District who is the water provider. They own the pipes, they own the water, and we need to get them to the table for that. There is an estimate that is between $6 and $7 million. Now, that study also looked at the industrial park area out there where Bethel is and Gideon and Lake. Because right now, there is no development opportunity because there is not sufficient water out there. But that's part of the big picture on that. So that's-
Hang on. One at a time.
So, anyway, we know that there's a study going on because we've seen the trucks, we've seen the flags, that kind of thing. So we know that is, and again, $6 to $7 million in a grand scheme of things is not a lot of money. I know the city of Millersville budget's about $2.8 million, correct? I have a copy of the budget, so $2.8 million. So, but for White House Utility District, that's not a lot of money. So, we understand how this works, and I want you to know, we are not opposed to reasonable development, okay? We are not opposed to that annexation for reasonable
The
development.
city has had nothing submitted for any type of development at all.
I have a map that you gave me that said R5 on it. And
There's a
C1.
request to rezone the property.
Right.
That does not, there's no development, there's no sketch plat, there's nothing being submitted to the city.
Right, but this is the first step in a development process, correct?
It is.
Okay, that's my point.
Yes, ma'am. I need your name and
My name
address.
is Paula Averett. I live on Swift Road, and not far from where Joint onto the South Mount Pleasant. If I understood correctly, White House Utilities is not gonna give the water tax for this property. So what would be the point in Millersville annexing this property without the possibility of development in the near future?
I didn't say they wasn't gonna give water tax. They won't sign off on a development that large until the water system is upgraded. Now, there's
And that's not
multiple
gonna
ways
happen
that
anytime soon.
that depends on White House water. No, ma'am, I can promise you Millersville's not gonna pay to upgrade the water. But that is a private company.
So what would be the point in Millersville annexing this property into their city without water?
Same as any, it's future planning.
I think it could cost. I feel like the water you should annex the property in without a known plan and set up timeline on when utilities can take water.
Yes, sir.
Jim Klein, 2176 Howell Road, across from the proposed project here. My question is just an extension of hers. Is there not a list of basic services that have to be provided with an annexation? Like water, sewer, streetlights, you have to meet so many of those to annex, is that all right?
Well, they would get water, sewer, police, fire, trash, all of those would be provided.
But you just said that.
The availability of sewer, is there now. The property may or may not have a water tap on it now. The city does not furnish water to anybody. That is a private company, that is White House Utility District, that is privately owned. That's not governmental.
So it has nothing to do with your annexation, water.
No, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Clark Shipley. I'm here on behalf of Gary Security, who lives at 2177 South Mount Pleasant Road. I just want to make sure I'm clear on something, Mr. Mayor. The rezoning request is not being heard. There's not going to be a public hearing tonight on the rezoning request.
No, sir.
But there has been a rezoning application made, is that correct?
It's, the city is looking to assign a zoning.
So it's not a rezoning, it's like you assign them.
It has to be annexed into the city before it can be zoned.
And so the public hearing on that will be the one that you referenced, and that would be for that entire strip that we're talking about. I believe it's referenced a couple of different times on the agenda.
Yes.
That's the public hearing for the zoning issue. Is that correct?
That would be at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm David Hudson. I live on South Osborne, 6910 South Osborne Road. The Millersville has already taken in the property on South Williams, and the developer, they is gonna have to provide the new water there at his expense, is what White House told us. But now, they've even changed that. They were gonna make him upgrade over on South Mount Pleasant, on through there, in addition to South Williams. But that's all been changed, and now he's not gonna have to do it. But, is the city, not have a number that they keep taking in? I mean, your sewer system is not that large. White House water, yes, could handle it, but the sewer system they take in the subdivision on South Williams, comes on up and goes down, South Mount Pleasant, it's gonna be way overloaded.
Our sewer system, especially the sewer system above the top of the ridge, is way more than it needs. It has, a lot more capacity.
Our engineer states that there's an excess of 800 residential units available service on the existing infrastructure.
So, and I don't know how many of you know this, the sewer that is collected in the city of Millersville goes through Millersville and goes to Metro. We don't have a treatment plant. So everything that was collected in Millersville is sent through Millersville and down to Metro.
But they've already approved where it's like they can handle 800.
Well, that's what our engineers tell us, that our current sewer system will handle, above the top of the ridge, over 800 more houses on that side of the interstate. There's two different lines that come down from up there. One comes down out by the church, and then one comes off of down the highway. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Kay Avery, I live at 7156 Cliff Road, around from the property that my mother's sister and I own. Property right across the street from this, like 2155 South Mount Pleasant. We own quite a bit of frontage right there across from this. We are opposed to this. A lot of it has to do with the traffic. I've even talked to the city a couple of times about some of the traffic issues we have. When we come out of South Mount Pleasant to turn onto Bethel Road, you have a business with a business license there on the corner that has no designated parking, has no handicap parking, it's not really handicap accessible with a ramp. And they have patrons and delivery trucks that park on the corner. We all have pictures of where you can't even see to pull out. Paul probably agree to this. And we've all nearly been hit several times, or if you're leaving before daylight, there's vehicles sitting there running with headlights shining. We contacted the police. They're like, well, there's nothing really we can do. And so we already have a traffic issue. So we rezoned this to be high density. Then, I mean, I don't know how the roads would have.
And I'll say this, any development that would come into the city, they might not empty onto Bethel Road. They may empty onto Bethel Road instead of south.
I understand that, but we already have an issue with the services or the lack of services Millersville's providing in their zoned area. I mean, I've talked to people in the mayor's office. My mother's called the police several times. So we already have an issue with traffic in the area. No matter which way they're coming, I don't see that Millersville is offering services that's going to improve the community in that area.
What services are you talking about?
Safety.
That is a state highway. We don't
I
cover the
understand that,
state
but
highway.
when people are constantly parked in the right of way of the businesses, they're not, and I called and asked why they're not designated parking. I said, oh, that business was only closed a year or two. We don't really enforce business regulations there in parking and zoning areas. So that's my concern, and that's why we're all opposed to it.
Yes, sir.
My name's Jim Stroud. I live at 2223 South Mount Pleasant Road. I live right across the street from the annex area that y'all want annexed. I've been living there about 35 years. And when we first moved there, it was a quiet place. The road was real quiet, hardly ever see a vehicle go up and down it. And they built houses all down our road now. Pretty nice homes. They built them, all of them living good. What she's talking about, we got traffic coming from everywhere now. They're racing up and down our street now. It's noisy, and you're gonna put another 100 houses over across the street? I mean, you said it could be possible. Or it could be an apartment house. You're gonna draw some more riffraff up here, stuff we don't want. And that's what I'm getting at. I'm tired of the traffic, more traffic. And you're talking about city of water, White House, our water pressure's gone crazy. It's stupid. It's so low now. How they gonna handle that? But I know it ain't your problem.
That's what I've
but
already
it's our
said.
problem.
The White House Water District will not allow another subdivision on their system as it exists today.
And
There would have to be upgrades made before any of that could ever happen.
and you're talking about pumping sewage in Nashville, I know you have to pay Nashville a fee for how much pounds of sewage you flush to them. I know they ain't gonna let you do it for free. And the city of Millersville, Texas, is gonna have to go up, they're gonna have some way to pay for it, or the people
Sewer
there
is an
gonna be
independent
taxed for
fund.
it. It's all about taxes too, I know that.
I think we get $92, that parcel would bring in $92 a year in tax money as it exists right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't think planning doing subdivision.
I'm Sarah Road, and you've heard a lot of people speak tonight, and I would just like to offer to bring up a petition with actual names. We have over 70 signatures that are opposed to this annexation.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Sue Butler, and I live at 2236 Howell Road. And I'm not worried about all your sewer and all that mess, but this is right in my yard. I can take 16 steps from my back side door to the lines where they're at. And that water runs constantly, and it runs right into my patio and under my house. And they start all that, and what am I gonna have? I've been living there for 50 years, and I think I ought to have a little say on what they put right under my door.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what I wanted to say.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Rick Ross, I live at 7137 Swift Road. And, no, I think it's, I just like to ask for candor. I think that candor suits this. To suggest that there's no future direction is kind of saying like, you know, people don't really go to a bar room for Coca-Cola. There's a reason why this annexation is happening, and it leads, one thing leads to another. And so while it is technically true that there's no proposal, it is the very likely outcome that a proposal will follow. And I think if everybody admits that, we're having a better conversation.
I've already admitted that.
Perfect.
There is nothing on the table right now. There may be something down the road. The only thing that I've said is before anything can go in there, it will have to go through multiple boards. It will have been permitted through the city, through the state, for controlling the water. There will be multiple engineer studies done, and the water will have to be upgraded.
Well, I respect and appreciate all of that. And I believe that you as a board of commissioners are going to try to make a good judgment decision. And I respectfully ask you when you consider the rezoning, that maybe the step doesn't need to be to R5, but to maybe the next level down to R4, which would be one lot per 20,000 feet instead of one lot per 10,000, which would help protect the character of the area and still allow progress to happen, would be a possible compromise to consider. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have something I want to say.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Helen Nash. I'm on the first property, the smaller one, and I'm for annexation of my parcel. The reason that I want to build out there, I bought that property back in 1993, and there's no house on it, and I bought it for my family. It was my mother's whole home. And with the idea of fixing it up and making a place for my sister to live, well, that didn't work because it couldn't occur. So I put some money into it. I put a 19-inch concrete culvert all the way across it for that drainage. And I ended up tearing the old house down and bulldozing the area, making it nice. Maintained it for several years. Finally realized I couldn't do anything with it because it couldn't work. And I tried every direction I could, and nothing was going to happen. So I just said, okay, I'm just going to leave it alone. And I haven't even looked at it. It's just overgrown, looks terrible. And I'm surprised y'all haven't come to me about it. But anyway, now this is come at a good time for me because I just discovered that I can apply for annexation, which would bail me of the sewer and therefore allow me to build out there. And I'm looking to downsize. I live in this community. I'm just over the interstate from you guys. I'm just a few miles over. So I love this area, and I love that place especially because I think it's beautiful out there, and I would love to build a house. And the reason I apply for the R5 zoning is because of the shallower setback lines. It's such a narrow property anyway, and that would avail me of the widest structure that I could get. It's only 100 foot wide and 300 and I think 80
5 feet deep or something like that. And I'm looking at a place that I can maybe build a joint dwelling for myself and my sister, my older sister, who's gonna need a place also. So that was my idea on this. So I was excited about the annexation, and I hadn't thought about all of these repercussions. And so I'm glad to hear the input. But I would look forward to having good quality life and good neighbors out there. That's the way I feel about it.
What's the difference between an R5 and an R4? And, I have no problem if they came over there on that 26 acres, and did like 5 acre lots or 3 acre lots and put 5 houses or 4 houses. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with, I got something in the mail that said they're gonna be multiple house units, or, they could make them be apartment house.
There's nothing submitted to the city for anything. The difference between R4 and R5 is lot size. I did not know right off the top of my head that lot size is R4 is.
Like this lady here, I have no problem with her having a house built, in that city, doing whatever, but as long as it ain't, 5 of them on an acre lot or 4 or whatever.
I'm going to try. And it's out in Pleasant. And I own property that's just backing up my property. And I don't want to see this development in my backyard. And there's going to be a lot of drainage and all running off of there, right on my property, and I have a big pond that is going right through the middle of it. And it's going to be a lot of drainage and waste coming out of that through there. And I'm very much opposed to it. Yes, sir.
I'm right here, 2273 South Mount Pleasant. And I'm opposed to it. I moved up there. I used to live in Brentwood. And I couldn't find some place to build on in Brentwood that I could afford, but I found prettiest lot in the world up there on South Mount Pleasant Road, surrounded by trees, nobody around it. And I'd like to keep that way. I don't want anything else, no annexation, no more people around me, don't want any immigrants around me, anything else.
Anyone else?
In Millersville, do you all allow the type of developments called PUDs, where you have an area, a lot is zoned for a certain density, and then if you account for setbacks and things like that, you can actually have higher density, like so that you can, so if the lot is zoned for 26 acres, if the lot is 26 acres and it's zoned for 5 houses per acre, it's not that, you can put the houses closer together and still get the same total number. Is that, do you all allow that type of thing? So I think that I understand that there's no proposal before you all right now, but it does seem really clear that the way that this whole area is developing, that at some point in the future, maybe not next year, maybe not the year after that, that something is gonna be proposed that could be with the R5 zoning that could be add up to, over 100 homes into that area. And so I would like to, like a lot of people up there, we have horses and cows and other things that don't really go very well with, apartment buildings and townhomes and things like that. And I'd like you to please consider having a lower density for that, people have a right to do what they want with their property, but please do just consider the rest of the area.
If a development comes in, we will. Like I said, that will have to go through multiple boards for approval. No boards have the right to change or ask for a lot of different stuff and go through these boards for approval. So, and that will be the time that would be. Yes, ma'am.
Christine Embry, 2201 South Mount Pleasant, and our home faces the property, and we have a lot of low-lying land already. We get a lot of standing water in the yard. That my neighbors, there's a whole lot of standing water already. The rainwater runs with barely any rain. I mean, it's ankle deep, which is the last couple of days. I'm really concerned about any kind of development, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it's just something small. I'm really worried about what that's gonna do to us, pushing that water towards us.
Anyone else?
Yes.
A lot of people are on the side down the road. Something that I thought of is that road already does get salted.
That's Robertson County.
I realize that, but you're gonna add more traffic onto a road that already is.
There's nothing proposed to add any traffic on the road.
Just the next slide system.
It may be. Like I said, there's nothing being proposed. I can't see. All right, y'all keep it down so we can hear it.
Don't try to bring that to everybody's attention that that's more traffic onto a road that's not designed for roads. It's not salted everywhere. It's just grass on there.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Lee Rader, I live at 2137 South Mount Pleasant. And I think it's interesting that of all these great people here, I'm the one that lives in the middle of this. I live on the west side, right, surrounded by this property, it's 26 acres. And I reflect, why did I buy that house? It's because I wanted to live in the county. I wanted to live rural. I wanted to live in a well-established neighborhood with people that have been there their entire lives. That's what I bought. My wife and I looked at over 50 houses physically and over 100 on the internet and found the Ollie Swift house because it's where I wanted to live, and that's what I bought. I actually own both lots. So I'm against annexation and zoning, and I know the zoning has not been proposed, but I think everybody in the room knows that annexation is the door opening for zoning. We all know that. We know you don't have a proposal. We know that door has to be open to get a proposal, and that's what we're talking about. So we can say it any way we want, but I adamantly.
I've said multiple times,
Yeah.
there will be something
That is the
proposed for that property at some point. I just don't know when that will be.
So the local annexation is what you do have.
Anyone else?
Absolutely. You might see, that's how much folks are talking about public hearing, that's what I'm doing. So, I'm not taking any position. But specifically, agenda item number 9, Hybrid Lakes assignment zone, the first reading. So, and I've heard there's no current proposal, but that originated somewhere, and I guess that's my question to the commission is where did that originate? Where did the assignment of R5 zoning come from? That was the request. Any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Audia Cook. My husband and I purchased a house at 2227 South Mount Pleasant Road. We came to this community again for the well-established neighborhood, and I actually get on South Mount Pleasant Road and walk. I'm safe. I'm safe to get out being disabled in my community. I have no fears of being hit or having multiple apartment buildings full of people that we're just a small community and we want to stay that way.
Yes, sir. Did you want?
My name is Tom Wilson. I live at 2567 South Mount Pleasant Road. I apologize if what I'm going to say has already been said. We're going to have a little trouble hearing, so I'm not sure that that's been said. But the bottom line is the developer, whoever that person is, what they want is sewer. They can't develop that property with the water problems on it and expect it to perk. So they want sewer. The only way they can get sewer is to be zoned for residential, and to do that, they've got to be annexed to get your sewer. That's what's happening. So anybody who thinks that's not what's going to happen is wrong. So what we're trying to do, those of us who are opposed to the annexation, and we would be also opposed to the rezoning, is we're trying to get ahead of that horse before it gets out of the barn and be opposed to the annexation. And if that passes, we're going to be opposed to the rezoning for the same reason. We don't want that horse to get out of the barn so that developer will have the ability to get on that sewer and put 5 houses on every acre. That's what we're opposed to. It's bottom line.
Yes, I'm Felicity, and I'm a property owner at 2155 South Pleasant Road, and I'm totally opposed.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Darrell Wild, 7232 Swift Road. That was earlier stated that Mr. Brower, y'all had zoned stuff for him. Is this not a payback that y'all zoned for him and the city to take this property?
No, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, my name is Steve, and I live at 2332 South Mount Pleasant, next to Mr. Speedway over here. And all that water comes right down on me. I've had to go and get covers put in, and any more added to it, and I'm completely flooded out. And I've been having, every time it rains, I usually have to wait for 2 or 3 hours to get out the road. So I'm against any rezoning, I'm against anything that Millersville wants to put up that way. I'm against rezoning, the annexation, and that's just my thoughts.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm John Kinley. I live at 2268 South Mount Pleasant Road. And I've listened to these gentlemen talk and this man here that just lives down the road from me. And the water that comes from this property up there, from the little store area where there's solid beans on the field now. It drains all the way down and it makes a little creek down there. It goes through the back of my property and through theirs. And it winds up all where I don't know. Because it's a creek, what it makes. And the start of it is on this property that they're talking about annexing. And another thing is, here 3 or 4 years ago, White House Water came down South Mount Pleasant Road there and put in a new water line. I went, to White House and asked them, I said, can you put us some fire hydrants? You won't see a fire hydrant on South Mountain, there's water lines up the road. And they told me, said, no, said, because you don't have enough pressure.
That water line's not big enough either.
That's what they told me that, so, you know, it's going to have to be a lot of changes made before.
Yes, sir, and that's the point I've been trying to make. It's gonna take a lot of money to upgrade the water. And I'll just be honest with you. That's, in my mind, that's 10 to 20 years out.
So again, why annex the property?
Because we was asked to. Yes, sir.
But it's already happened, because the property on South Williams, which is right off Bethel Road, that has already been approved. And
If the developer upgrades the water.
Well, I know the developer has agreed to pay for to upgrade the water. But now, that's what I was saying a while ago, the city of White House certainly didn't have to. But he's gonna pay the city of White House. At first, they told him he would have to get an independent company to come in, put the water lines in, and then donate it to White House.
Yes.
And then, but that's all keeps changing. But he's already been approved to where as soon as the water gets there, he can build all these houses on South Williams. And he's had to carry through Millersville more than once because y'all changed some of the building codes. When he first started, he was gonna have to put storm sewer in. He was going to put curb gutters, sidewalks and all that. They've eliminated that. They've eliminated a lot.
Where are you getting this information?
Sir?
Where are you
receiving this information? Did you receive a letter that says all this? I would really like to know, because none of that has happened, and none of that has even been contemplated by this
I know the
commission.
developer.
The developer still is on track with what he submitted to our planning department. And it's not the city of White House, it's White House Utilities.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem we've had in developing that area up there is no water. And we will not be able to develop that area up there, even right across from the interstate, because of the lack of the, what size water line, 3-inch water line? That's why y'all have so little pressure. And that's part of the problem that we've had
Well,
with
the
this
little
city.
pressure's been going on since back in the 70s.
Exactly, and White House Utility is not going to spend the money. That's what they told the city of Millersville, this commission, that they're not gonna spend the money to improve that area. And therefore, if the developer comes in, they have to spend it.
But y'all already approved for him to, as soon as he gets the water done, y'all already approved for him to build on that land over there.
Yes, sir, that's
Multiple
correct.
houses, and which is a
Go ahead,
dead-end
Mr.
road.
Barr, please straighten him out as to what that's.
Well, at this point, we only have a preliminary plat approval for the 53 lots for the project. It's called Bethel Farms. It was first submitted in 2005, and then it was put on a shelf. It was brought back in 16, right after I started with the city. It took us some time to clean up some inconsistencies in some of the earlier approvals or entitlements, if you will. And then early this year, the preliminary plat for that subdivision was approved by the planning commission. But we haven't moved beyond that. It's my understanding, I haven't heard anything from either of the partners, nor from their engineers. And so I don't know where the project is right now, although it's my understanding that state statute provides for a 3-year window for that preliminary plat of approval to be taken to final plat. And at final plat, that's when we get into the details of the surety bonding, performance bonding, maintenance bonding, development agreement, and none of that has been tackled yet. So, but they pretty much put the project on hold until they resolve the water issues with White House Utilities.
The developer tells me that that is in the making now.
I haven't been contacted in probably 6 months.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. I'm Ricky Strong, I live at 7148 Swift Road, and you said that the reason they're annexing to they requested one person? This room full is requesting two people. Well, this room full is requesting you not. Is that even what? We're not looking to annex. As far as I know, anyone in this room, other than this name.
So I don't know how many of y'all live in Millersville. I know that I don't. I live in
All
the
of us
county.
do.
Well, but those of us in the area that we're talking about may or may not be already residents of Millersville. And I want to know, do you all listen, like, do you hear what we have to say about these things because we're not residents of your town? You know, how are you all gonna
Yes, ma'am.
weigh what we say?
We'll sit here and listen to everything you have to say. Is it gonna sway what we do? I can't tell you whether it will or it won't. All I can tell you is what's going on. We've had 2 property owners ask us to annex them into the city. That happens on a pretty regular basis. The people run into the situation that they can't get their property perked and they want the sewer, so it has to be annexed in, or they want the fire department protection and or the police protection. And whether y'all know it or not, all of y'all are pretty well protected by Millersville, because if your house catches on fire, we're coming.
I have a comment on that.
Now, hang on just a second. You're getting services from the city that I know that for a fact, because I was on the fire department for over 20 years, and that does happen. Yes, sir.
There's a fire department less than a mile from my house.
Yes,
Right?
it's Millersville Fire Department.
I don't get an insurance break. In fact, I had to pay more insurance because there's not a manned fire department for my house. It's a volunteer fire department, right? If tonight, if I walk out of here and I go home and I get on my porch and I call the police or the fire department, where does that call go?
Goes to Robertson County.
Or Gallatin?
No, sir, it goes to Robertson County.
Yeah, goes to Southern County from the store. We had an issue in the neighborhood with an intruder at one of my neighbor's house the other day. Two guys walked off Bethel Road, called the police. They were sitting at Shell. 45 minutes later, they got there. The issue was over. So I really question, when I think about the value, if we were annexed, what value are we really getting? We're getting trash.
You're not being annexed.
Right in the middle of it, I'm not in, but all around me will be, right?
All
I'm
I
right
can
in the
speak
middle of it.
to is the property that's being annexed. Your property is not yours. Yes, sir.
I read all 30 pages of the application. And I believe everything there looks like it's in good order. But I believe you do have a lot of discretion as a board of commissioners and elected leaders in the community. I think well, part of the same community development, whether we're inside of Millersville or just in the appropriate areas of the county. And I ask, is it in your discretion to respond to this request for annexation with a conditional approval that says we would approve, but we'd like you to have a lower density? Because the application, the 30 pages, is for both annexation and zoning. It is one issue in the 30 pages.
The zoning
And they're
can't,
connected.
we can't rezone county property. That's why the
I got that.
the
The zoning
zoning
comes
is
after the
the
annexation. I get it, but there's sort of two in one because it's one 30-page application. and It's all in one thing. And so not to minimize order, I understand, but the zoning is a direct consequential outcome of the annexation. And so in a sense, you're considering both at once. And I actually have
public hearing.
Yeah, we'll have a public hearing on the zoning.
when it's annexed, what will the zoning be? If you approve the annexation plan, what zoning will it have?
It won't have one.
It'll retain the county's designation.
So I do beg of you to consider a lower density zoning when it comes time.
I have a question. You said it retains the county's zoning designation until it's changed by the city?
Yes. I believe that is the case. However, the process does involve a zoning assignment to it. And I believe our code, if not the state statute, says that needs to be initiated within 60 days. The municipal making the annexation to assign a zoning designation. So that's what we're following up with that.
And that would be whether it's retain the county's zoning designation.
Which is R 30 right now.
Well, we don't have it on 30, so that would
So
not.
you've got to change it to something.
Correct. Our zoning isn't exactly as Robertson County's.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you keep saying or stating that the assigning of the zoning will be at next month's meeting. So does this mean you've already made up your mind you're going to annex the property?
No,
Or
ma'am.
that's
What
coming
I'm-
here?
What I'm saying, if the property is annexed tonight is the final vote on that. If that happens, the rezoning,
Okay,
the first reading on the rezoning is after that.
okay,
If
that's
the
the first
property
time
is
it's
not
been stated
annexed,
that way,
then
that's why I wanted to.
that line item we wouldn't even discuss it.
Okay, that's fine, that's just not the way it's been conveyed so far, thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Michael Sanders. I live at 7122 Smith Road. I'm a 100% disabled veteran. My wife and I bought a house on Swift Road, not very far from the land you're talking about, for my personal health. Now, putting in more than a dozen or fewer houses there is not only going to create more traffic and have more people in the quiet rural neighborhood where my wife and I want to live, it's also going to affect my personal health. And not only that, it's also going to affect my property value. So I ask you to please consider the fact that this isn't just about money, and it's not just about somebody's convenience. This is about several of us who have health issues. And this will directly affect our personal health. Thank you.
Anyone else?
When y'all annex this, is the city of Millersville gonna be liable for all the drainage runoff of this property? Because it's gonna fill our ponds full of mud and everything when they start developing.
There's no development scheduled for the property.
Well, you would have to get a stormwater permit.
Yeah. Yeah, you have, there is a, and a lot of y'all are builders, you're a builder, you know what it takes to build something. You have to go through TDEC and get a lot of approval. And it's more restrictions on building now than there's ever been.
I know what a big subdivision can do.
Yes, sir, I do too.
For the drainage and everything. And like fellow back here said, he's got the property down the branch there. And I've got a big pond. And my neighbor's got one. And when that water starts draining off of this development, it's gonna fill these ponds up with mud and everything. And the city is gonna be liable for it.
I believe TDEC would see that didn't happen, but that's just not.
Sir, I've seen too many developments that did happen.
I respect your opinion. Like I said, the restrictions on development right now are as strong as they have ever been.
I'm just saying, the city of Millersville is gonna be opening themselves up to lawsuits if they develop that area.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close public comments. Next one is ordinance 18-705, to rezone a 7.6 acre portion of a 33.6 acre parcel located near the intersection of Bethel Road and South Mount Pleasant Road, Robertson County map 125, parcel 177.00 from residential R1 to commercial C1. I'm now open for public comment. Yes, sir.
I proposed it, I know it is 2272 South Pleasant Road.
I'm 100% opposed it.
I'm opposed to it. Can I just say, everybody opposed, raise your hand. Everybody get all that time.
I'm right now.
We will copy this. Is there anyone else?
2372 Hawkins Way. So you keep saying that there's no annexation sign, and I did get this map from your office.
That 7.6 acres is already in the city.
Okay, so you're talking now about the rezoning.
We're looking at rezoning that parcel, that 7.6 acres, that's already in the city.
The blue portion where you live, right? Okay, he lives, I just want to make sure. So C1, just for clarification, how many different classes of commercial are there?
Most actually, are commons.
How many different commercial?
C1, C2, C3.
Right, there's C1, C2, C3, and C4.
Okay, can you kind of give us a little primer on what a C4 is?
C4 is for mini storage warehouse.
Okay, so that's 4. 3.
3 is highway commercial. It's a high intensity zoning designation, for instance, hotels, restaurants, gas stations, that sort of.
Truck stops.
Around the intersection.
Yes.
Yeah, but if it's, that's 3. What's 2?
2 is, we don't see 2 very often, and off the top of my head, I don't recall.
And C1?
But this information is available.
It's on your website, it's on your city website, but you being in charge of this. So a C1 is what?
A C1 is your general retail and service. And that could be anything from offices to gas stations, to stores, restaurants. It's your general class of commercial.
So C1, you would say, is the broadest, correct?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So
But
on
not
this,
the most intense.
right, but on this blue square, and I know you guys know where it is, it's, you go at the corner where the store is, and you go down about 300 yards, about to Dale Jones's house, okay? And on Bethel Road it goes right up to the church property, correct, which is already C1?
Yes, sir.
It is, okay. So C1, you could have a restaurant. Yeah. You could have a grocery store. Yes. You could have a liquor store.
With certain approvals.
Right, but you could put a liquor store right
Right
there.
next to that church.
How many feet? How many feet?
It's property line to property line.
Okay. So you couldn't put a liquor store there, but you could down South Mount Pleasant Road. That's correct, right? You couldn't, what would be the problem there?
The footage restriction from property line to property line, and that's the reason we make the restriction in footage from property line instead of door to door.
Okay.
To make it a lot more tighter as to where the stores want to go.
Okay, so
And
basically,
there's only two allowed in the city.
okay. And how many?
Right there is a moratorium, Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission on state legislation, have moratorium against any liquor store to be created throughout the state of Tennessee until 2020.
How many liquor stores do you have?
One liquor store.
Okay, but you could have another.
We could, if the moratorium by the state legislation.
Okay, the 2020 is just right around, that's just right around the corner, right? I mean, it'll be a year away is nothing, okay. So my point is, my point is this. The commercial development that could occur in that area is just about anything except a liquor store, correct?
No.
What other, I'm just curious.
I've given you a brief summary of some of the example of some of those uses.
Right. A truck stop.
Not a truck stop.
Restaurant, nope, no, so that wouldn't fit in
C3.
C1. That's C3, has to be C3.
Well, that's designated near the interchange.
Right. But a big, let's say Marathon gas station, that'd be fine.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just think they need to know
Actually,
exactly.
a church could go there also.
Yeah.
Right next door to the southern.
Right, well, you know bad to sit and put up with that. But anyway, my point is, okay, just about anything except a very few limited things could go into that commercial, correct?
Mostly, yes.
Yes, okay, I just wanted everybody to know that.
Paula Avery. So we've already discussed about coming on the South Pleasant on Bethel Road. The small store that's already there obstructs the view of the oncoming traffic on Bethel Road. So now we want to add commercial property in that same area to create a higher traffic hazard with additional traffic obstructing the view coming up Bethel Road.
The state would have to issue a driveway check for that property. And they will not issue one that is dated unsafe.
Well, it's unsafe because they put a stop sign up that lasted 5 days.
We're not talking about, we're not talking about, we're talking about the property.
So now you're wanting to turn a small tract into commercial property to add to that unsafe environment. This is.
I can't tell.
I have a question. Is there like a legal reason that this, that the annexation and rezoning of Ms. Barron's property is linked to Ms. Nash's property? Because it seems that the 26-acre parcel is different than Ms. Nash's property.
Would hers skip property to get to Ms. Nash?
I'm sorry,
Would there be a piece of property between the city and Ms. Nash?
There's the Barron parcel and there's also the Greater parcel.
So they would be tied together?
We tie them together because they're contiguous, not only to one another, but also to the city limits as they are today.
But do you all do, can somebody be annexed, can someone request annexation that's not like touching Millersville already?
Yes, as long as it's not agricultural.
Yeah, but we don't really like that. But you would do it.
So you could annex this dash and not the 26 acres, and she could still have those sewage. That sounds like fun.
No.
The statute allows it.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm Randy Crossland, I own the store with them. So, yeah.
I know, I shop there.
Yeah. So, my question, what you just said, that you would not go around another parcel to annex this in, that you're bypassing the Raiders property. To annex the 26 acres, right?
Well, the 26 acres is already hooked to Millersville over where the commercial is at. So we're not, it's still touching Millersville whether we go around the Raiders or not. And the church.
It should be annexed in Elam, and he doesn't.
No,
No, that just doesn't go around that one little section. How much property do you have there, please?
3.5.
So 3.5 acres is just gonna stick out all by itself.
we cannot annex anybody that does not want to be annexed.
Right.
That's state law.
Actually, we can, recommend.
We're not going to.
So that being said, your police, they're not gonna have access to South Mount Pleasant, they're gonna have to come through this commercial.
No, sir. Police can go down south.
So they're gonna go out of the city.
They do it every day. We go into Millersville to get onto the interstate. Every day. I believe about every police department goes out there.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, in order to get to an area of service, they're actually leaving the city to re-enter the city. 3.5 acres,
Yes,
right?
and we do that now on Tennant Road. We have a road that is completely cut off from the city because it's in Sumner County.
Right.
But the only access to it is from Tennant Road. So if there's a call over there, we have to go about 3 miles through another city or county, or 2 counties to get to that road. Yes, ma'am.
I want to come back to the commercial zoning because if water pressure is such an issue with this property, since they're going to be so close together, would the city not consider funding the water pressure to go in for tax revenue with the commercial? Is that something that?
We're not gonna spend taxpayer money in a private run business. We're not gonna do it. Yes, sir.
I got a question. If this is annexed to C1, can that be rechanged to C3 later?
This piece of property does not have to be annexed. It's already in the city. This is only for rezone.
All right, so it could go from C1 to C3 at a later date.
It could, yes.
Okay.
Well, someone requested to build there under commercial, so what's the purpose?
It was requested to go from the property owner.
So the property owner requested to go commercial for whatever he may have plans for their future.
It's the same people
It's the same.
that own all this 26 acres all the time.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say 2 things really. And all this groundwater conversation and all this runoff, it's bad. It's bad now. But I'm not heard anything on. Now let's pave the streets and put in concrete driveways, and that water isn't absorbing in the ground. I know they would have to have a plan for that.
That would come whatever is proposed there.
Understood. It seems like a massive undertaking. And on this commercial side, we're now talking that literally my house will be completely surrounded by commercial property.
I guess, I don't know exactly.
I think that's exactly right. So I already gave you testimony on my dream home that I live in, around all my good neighbors, and now behind my back fence is a strip mall. Needless to say how I feel about that. That's very much a potential.
I second that.
Anyone else? All right, if there's no one else, I'm gonna close the public hearing. We're gonna go to item number 6. Approval of resolution 18-R-04B, annexation of Robertson County map 126, parcel 059.00, upon written consent of the owners, and to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Millersville. I'll call for a motion.
I move that we approve resolution 18-R-04B, the annexation of Robertson County map 126, 59, upon the written consent of the owners and to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Millersville. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
So this is only the one piece of property, correct?
Yes.
On the site.
This is the one that there were no comments, so there were no public comments.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Item number 7, approval of resolution 18-R-05B, annexation of a 26-acre portion of Robertson County map 125, parcel 177.00, and map 125, parcel 085.00, on written consent of the owners, and to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Millersville. Call for a motion.
I move that we approve resolution 18-R-05B, the annexation of 26 plus or minus acres, which is a portion of Robertson County map 125, parcel 177, and map 125, parcel 85, upon written consent of the owners and to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Millersville, Tennessee.
I'll second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I would like Mike to kind of discuss, what you said this earlier in that email, and follow up with some of the information that you gave us in regards to the parcel.
Which information?
The one that you were replying to, the letter to the editor for Smoky Barn.
That was an internal document, for your edification, essentially. It was, my opinion and my responses to, what was posted in Smoky Barn. Pretty much pointed out the errors of the letter, in particular from Mr. Fouquet, and also corrected some of the inconsistencies with Ms. Barron's letter to the editor. But essentially, I laid out the facts of the maximum densities and other information from the history of this of the request for the annexation.
Do you mind stating some of those issues? Because I would like to be very clear. Because I know a lot of these residents would like to know the details. Is that possible for you to be able to help us with that? Because I want everybody to be very clear on what's happening, what we're doing, why we're doing it. I know that you've received a lot of information from Mr. Fugway on what's happening, but
Actually, I've not received anything from Mr. Fouquet.
well, except, right, but I'm talking about the response. I do want the public to know what exactly is going on, what we're hearing as well.
Well, essentially, and what I laid out was a conversation or explanation of the maximum development that may be tied to the zoning designation of Lot 5. But currently, I also laid out some of its history as well, and that includes that it's currently zoned R30 with the county, which would allow, I believe, upwards of 37 residential units or lots, if you will. The county's R30 is for 30,000 square foot lots. The issue with that, I've been in conversation with the county's planner, is that this fits within their vision and their growth plan for the county of development in these pods and clusters around major intersections, in particular along state highways. Similarly to State Road 76 and 41 and whatnot scattered throughout the county. The idea is that you have these more intensive and dense either projects, whether it's commercial or residential, at these intersections. That's frankly wise planning, and I agree with the county's growth plan on that. I also pointed out that there was no development plan in place for this. There are no proposals. We We have had some very, very general conversations about what the city allows and what the city envisions for this area. But these have been very general conversations, and in fact, it hasn't even been with Ms. Barron, it's been with Mr. Barron.
But even stating that right now, it is zoned for 30,000 square feet lots
Yes, ma'am.
already for the county.
And the
So
county
it's already
would-
said is that part.
And the county, that zoning was designated back in the seventies when the county adopted their zoning map. So as far back as the 1970s, it was envisioned that there would be subdivisions. At the time, they probably didn't understand the intensity of the growth that was happening there. They recognize now that it would not be unusual to rezone that to a more dense zone, taking it down to an R20 or even an R10, which the county also has because of its location, particularly its proximity to the interstate. But as far as the vision of the county, I think the city's vision aligns well with it. And from a peer perspective, back and forth with Doug Vaughn over there at the county, we are in agreement with beginning the process to develop that intersection. Of course, it may involve roadway improvements. It certainly is going to involve sewer improvements. It's going to involve the water. Obviously, we already provide fire and police protection and whatnot. And the other municipal services is outlined in the planning services that accompanies this.
Well, and then the other piece that you sent us is the road boundaries that's already been preset.
Yes, actually.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2000. The state required all the counties within the state to develop a urban growth boundary and growth plan. Robertson County adopted theirs in 2000. All of the cities within Robertson County came together. It was a very, very complex ordeal with different committees and whatnot. But every city had to commit and agree to this master plan, if you will, for Robertson County. The city was a signature to the growth plan, and within that growth plan is what they call urban growth boundaries. And essentially, what's happened is the cities cooperatively set maximum areas that could be annexed into the respective cities. And our urban growth boundary for the city of Millersville actually extends almost 2 miles north on South Mount Pleasant Road, north of Bethel Road. And in fact, it then carries to the east to, I believe, Newhall, and to the west out onto Gideon, and probably a good mile and a half of Gideon. So from a very early, at least from 2000, it was envisioned that eventually Millersville could grow to this boundary. Now, we do meet the boundaries with White House, the city of White House. We also meet with the boundaries of Greenbrier and Ridgetop. State law does not allow cities to annex into other municipalities' urban growth boundaries. However, even north of our urban growth boundary, as it is right now, there are portions that are unincorporated Robertson County and not assigned. Theoretically, we could annex beyond our urban growth boundary line into the unincorporated, unassigned areas. But let me lay out first, I have been directed by this board, it has been made abundantly clear from the very first day I started here in the city, is that the city does not have the desire to annex lands without the owner's consent. I mean, this is a purely voluntary measure in this case. And honestly, I would convey that message to any other phone call I receive. There is other ways there is actually one other way to annex without the owner's permission. I don't believe the city commission has that appetite for that, and it involves the referendum to the voters, and it's very complex. And I don't think it would serve you well politically. But I wanted to share with you that the urban growth boundary that the city established in cooperation with our neighboring cities and the county extends quite a ways up. In fact, well past Osborne, to the north of Bethel Road.
Yeah, so basically what that means is the majority of the properties that, probably that you own right now, they've already set the growth boundaries of, if you ever decide you want to be annexed into a city, that's already been set by these growth boundaries about where this property's going for the city of White House, where the property's going for Greenbrier, and if somebody else wanted to for Millersville as well, that's already set. So we don't actively go out and seek to annex properties. Pretty much the owner has to come to us because they're wanting water or fire, or they're wanting for sewers, they're wanting that. So the only way that we annex properties into the city, that since I've been commissioner now for 9.5 years, is the fact that if they come to us and ask for that. So even right now, as the zoning is saying, that property is an R30, which is saying 37 right now lots could be built on that property if that property would perk, and if the property had water. Right now, it won't perk, from my understanding, because you keep telling us about the water runoff. So that would have to be going through all the TDEC and all of the guidelines for that water to be even at that. But it's not even going to make it because of the water issue. There's not enough water pressure even over there to build that, would you say?
Yes, ma'am, it's my understanding, that the White House Utility District's available water has been committed to, in both the Bethel Farms project, 53 units, in South Williams, as well as a conceptually planned townhome project, west of the interstate, about a quarter-mile west of the interstate, Mr. Cox's project. They both have letters of availability from White House Utilities.
So, and I just want you to understand, I don't take this lightly. I am from this area as well. I grew up here. And I even have a subdivision now that I currently live over in Quellwood, and we're looking at possibly a development in that field next to us. So please understand, I am the same way. I want it to maintain farmland. I don't want it to be busy. I'm on Bethel Road. I like it being peaceful and quiet. But I also know, as a real estate agent, that the national area is growing by leaps and bounds. The other piece that I know is important is that we do the right development, going through development, zoning and planning, all of that moving forward in what they can build, what they can't build. And again, I don't want it personally. I want the farmland to remain, but I can't do that to those property owners either. That's not fair to do that to them, in my opinion, especially when they own it if you do the proper developing and zoning moving forward. So I understand both sides, so I don't take this lightly on how we vote. And we have definitely looked over this, but I do think that you are correct in the fact that the gentleman is saying about the proper zoning. I do agree that we need to look at that in detail, what that looks like going forward. But again, I still believe that progress is coming, and I know that it's difficult, I know it's challenging. But we all have to work together. If these property owners want to be annexed into the city, I don't see an issue with that, in my opinion. So, can we keep them counted forever? I don't think that's right to do that to those people that they own that property. But I do think that we can control the type of road that goes moving forward. So that's all I have to say.
Well, I've got to say something about that. You mentioned, Mayor, the fact that we have never, or I have never, annexed anyone in the city that didn't request. I never would even consider it. I've done that for all my life. I rode my bicycle all the way up the creek up there. I know several people out there. And I would consider it if they hadn't asked to come in the city.
Just because they asked.
Ma'am, ma'am, it's on that time over. Anyone else? Any further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed? Item number 8, second reading of ordinance 18-705, an ordinance to rezone a 7.6 acre portion of a 33.6 acre parcel located near the intersection of Bethel Road and South Mount Pleasant Road, Robertson County map 125, parcel 177.00, from residential R1 to commercial C1. If y'all wish to talk, you'll need to step out of the room. Sir, if you need to talk, you need to go out there and do it. Call for a motion.
Move that we approve on second reading ordinance 18-705, ordinance to rezone 7.6 acre coastal.
Anybody that wants to talk will need to go outside those doors.
They are. Of the 33.6 acre parcel located in the section of Central Road and South Mount Pleasant Road, Robertson County map 125, parcel 177, residential R1, commercial C.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. This will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Gregory. Aye. Commissioner Bell. Aye. I vote aye. Commissioner Thomas. Aye. Commissioner York. Aye. Motion carries. Item number 9, first reading of ordinance 18-706. An ordinance to assign residential R5 zoning designating territory annexed into the city of Millersville, city limit identified as a portion of Robertson County map 125, parcel 177.0, and parcel 085.00. Call for a motion.
Move that we approve on first reading ordinance 18-706, which is ordinance to assign residential R5 zoning designation territory annexed into this Millersville city limits identified as a portion of Robertson County map 125, parcel 177, and parcel 85.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried by a vote of 4 to 1. Number 10, first reading of ordinance 18-707. An ordinance to assign residential R4 zoning designation and territory annexed into the Millersville city limits identified as Robertson County map 126, parcel 059.00. Call for a motion.
Move that we approve of first reading ordinance 18-707, which is the ordinance to assign residential R4 zoning designation on territory annexed into the Millersville city limits identified as Robertson County map 126, parcel 59.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
This the process of the
Swift. It's out by hallway. Sir?
South.
South.
This is Mr. Pearl's property that was just recently purchased, and actually this property number is here. But you have any questions? That's for how long?
That's a young lady that spoke earlier.
No, there was no.
But this property is essentially an enclave, and we wish to connect to our sanitary sewer system. All the other services are in place for him, but he was held up by the county due to the fact that the sewer system. So he has to come to the city.
You think vote? Call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Item number 11, first reading of ordinance 18-708, an ordinance to amend chapter 86 of the Millersville Code of Ordinances, Article 2, Division 2, zoning authority, section 86, or 18. Membership age.
We approve of first reading ordinance 18-708. Zoning authority, section 86.
Motion has been made. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed? Item number 12, first reading of ordinance 18-709, an ordinance to amend chapter 90 of the Millersville Code of Ordinances, Article motion.
Move that we approve on first reading ordinance 18-709, and ordinance to amend chapter 90 of the Millersville Code of Ordinances, Article 2, Administration and Enforcement.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Number 13, first reading of ordinance 18-710, an ordinance to amend chapter 18 of the Millersville Code of Ordinances, building and building regulations. Call for a motion.
Move that we approve on first reading ordinance 18-710, ordinance to amend chapter 18 of the Millersville Code of Ordinances, building and building regulations.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
What is, actually, in this case, the entire, section of chapter 18 is being replaced. We found some inconsistencies, we also found some issues, within the new adopted codes of 2015 and 2012 that, we wanted to make some modifications to that we felt was in the best interest of our builders and our residents, and we've gone ahead and cleaned that up. By the way, this product was generated by our contract building inspector, Andrew Pierre, real sharp guy. He found that, and is making these recommendations that works and fits best for the city.
Anything further? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Item number 14, first reading of ordinance 18-703, an ordinance to amend Millersville Code of Ordinances, chapter 90, article 3, division 2, residential district, section 174, design review standards for fences. Call for a motion.
I move that we approve on first reading ordinance 18-703, an ordinance to amend the Millersville Code of Ordinances, chapter 90, article 3, division 2, residential districts, section 174, design review standards for fences.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, the planning commission voted on the October 9, 2018 to recommend the amendment to chapter 96, 174, design review standards.
I do wish to point out, however, I think there was a discussion about building permits that we were, whether that would be added to this ordinance that the city commission could take now.
Yes, and in fact, that was added in, Vice Mayor, under item 3D.
3D.
That you'll find, yes, that
That's been added to.
Fences will, under this proposed language, fences will require a permit from the building department. Also, for the mayor, we took a look at and clarified the front yard terms and definitions. And in this case, we have set certain language that says the front yard is essentially where the front of the house, with the front elevation, with a defined front door. We got crosswise on an earlier conversation about this, that there was confusion, that we were trying to follow our definition of front yards, which in our code, front yards are the portion of the yard between the house and any public road. So you could be on a corner lot, or you could have a street in front and a street behind, and technically have two front yards by the definition within our code. But in this case, and only in this case, is front yard now just considered the front of the house with the front door. So that then the other sides, the other areas between the house and a roadway are considered side yards, and they have their own restrictions and whatnot, but and they're not. But essentially, this changed things up and matched the direction that I had from this board.
We also discussed during planning and zoning if we proposed field permits. And then he brought up that you need for the fee, you need permits, $5, $10, is that all?
We will, once this is approved, and in fact, internally, there are several of us that are working to look closer at our building permit fees today. And we'll be bringing that back to you by resolution. And that will include a fee for fences. It is expected to be nominal. Essentially almost like a burn permit, where the intention is to give guidance and direction to the installation of the fence so that the folks that are bringing the fence, installing the fences know what the rules are, bottom line. Just, it's more of a helpful tool. It's not meant as punishment or make it more difficult, but rather so we don't have as much confusion that we're experiencing now with these fences going out.
It's not to generate revenue, it's just.
No, sir,
cost
not
of
at all.
issuance.
No.
And have somebody look at what they're doing.
Yes, and we'll develop a process for that, between now and the second reading, that we'll use internally as far as intaking the permit, what we'll require on that, probably a sketch plan or some sort of sketch that shows, the location of the fence in relation to the house and the property lines. Internally, when we review that, we'll also take a look at any constraints on the property, like for instance, if it has any easements or any other encumbrances or any other conditions or restrictions that would affect the placement of the fence.
Anything further? Hearing nothing, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Number 15, approval of the interim city manager's updated plan of action for compensation during the interim appointment. Call for a motion.
I move that we approve the interim city manager's updated plan of action for compensation during the interim appointment as submitted and dated October 12th, 2019.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
There's also this other name mentioned in here, right? The other Michael is considered in this as well.
Yeah, everything
Okay.
except for one.
Yeah, and just that all of it is retroactive to the pay period beginning September 27th.
Correct, yeah.
Are we actually still seeking city manager?
No, this time. Not until that year period is up, that we agree on. Anything further? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Number 16, approval of the mayor's appointment to the Millersville Towing Authority Board, and I believe that is Holly, Commissioner Doris, and Ms. Chadwick. Call for motion.
Move that we approve the mayor's appointments to the Millersville Towing Authority Board.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Y'all can't back out. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Call me off guard here. Item number 17, approval of a one-year contract extension with Rogers Group for fiscal year 2018-19 paving services. Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the one-year contract extension with Rogers Group, 2018-19 paving services.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item number 18, action related to a traffic signal at the intersection of Bethel Road and Highway 31W.
I make a motion, we put the light in.
I'd like to make an amendment to that motion.
Hang on. We gotta have a second first.
Second.
Okay.
I'd like to make an amendment to his motion that we reevaluate it within the next 5 years.
That we put the light in, then reevaluate it.
No, yeah, put the light in and evaluate within 5 years to see if anything else needs to be improved there.
Light go right in turn.
Whatever,
Okay.
whatever it needs, I mean,
with the OHM.
I'll second, and I want to amend it as well. Sorry, but I would like us to spend the engineering study that I had talked to Michael about with OHM to find out the cost and expenses and whether we need to shut the roads down, whether we need to put in a turning lane, what all that entails. It's gonna be 10 to 15,000 approximately. We don't know the exact figure unless you're here to tell us that. Can you tell us that?
I got,
Do you
hang
mind?
on.
We can't do it yet?
You gotta have a second.
We gotta have a second, somebody second, so we can hear it. And then we'll decide for it.
Who's second my amendment?
I'll second
Okay.
Commissioner Coleman's amendment.
All right, now, we're gonna take action on the second amendment as to see if we can figure out what the cost
Thank you.
would be on studying everything.
Real quick, I'm Matthew Brown, filling in for Bob tonight, work for OHM Advisors. I have a proposal here that Bob wrote up, the engineering study to study the signal out there, for engineering design, topographic survey, 32,000.
The proposal is what I should explain to them.
Yeah, pre-construction, construction, phase services, hourly basis.
Got an extra.
All right, I've got a question. In your proposal, it's not gonna, or are you gonna address what should happen with the roads? Or are you gonna, or is your company gonna give an opinion on that?
I believe we would provide full design services for what would need to take place in order to signalize the roadway. That does not include, I think there's some potential driveway relocations out there.
Yes.
There are some unknowns and some moving parts that we would, of course, coordinate with the city with. But this, if you're talking about,
There's two small roads that connect Bethel to 31W.
Right.
Is OHM gonna offer an opinion as to whether those roads should remain open, whether those roads should be closed, or whether those roads should be turned into one-way streets?
I don't want to speak out of turn for Bob. So I'm gonna hold.
But it would just be an opinion. What you're proposing is design what we asked you to design, correct?
Yes, sir. I mean, we would work with the city to come up with a single design that would, address all the traffic issues at the intersection.
That's the reason I wanted to say about the come back 5 years later, because right now, if growth grows out there like Mike was talking about, we're gonna add a lot more traffic out there. So that's the reason I said come back in 5 years to see what the growth is gonna be and what the impact is gonna be.
Let me ask another question. Do y'all have an opinion as to a dollar amount of what it would cost putting the signal in with the turning lane?
From the conversation that I had with Bob, we took a look, just kind of preliminarily at the intersection. We think it would be a good idea to go ahead and install, and really it's going to be required for a steel pole to be installed in the northwest corner. That's the large slope corner there. And it would also make sense to go ahead and install a steel pole in the southeast corner. That being said, 2 wood poles we think would make sense in the other 2 corners. If we install steel poles on the 2 corners there, northwest and southeast, we could in the future, say commercial development happens, and the need for a dedicated right or left turn comes in, with steel poles you could easily in the future add mast arms, which would allow for another signal head, change in the phasing. So we've had some preliminary conversations about that already, but that's as far as I'm aware of.
Mr. Mayor, if I could interject, I gave direction to OHM to prepare a contract to design a signal with the minimum requirements that would meet the state's approval for building this signal on their highways. They were not directed to come up with any kind of extra expenses, estimates of lanes or closures. This was under I believe your direction was a proposal to design a bare bones traffic signal and then manage the construction of it. And that's it. And it didn't include the turn lanes, it didn't include any fancy things like mast arms or.
Right, and that's what we're talking with this amendment. Do we want to go through that study? I would, if it's possible, I'd like to know ballpark, and I mean, you can be within 20,000 or 50,000 of, number one, what the light's gonna cost, and number two, what a right turn lane would cost.
I can give you an answer on the lights. The lights, construction costs, if we're talking about span wires and not mast arms, we're looking around $80,000.
What about with the steel poles?
That would include steel poles for the two corners.
What about the arms?
The mast arms are looking around $125,000.
Okay.
It's for red.
But now that will be in the future, that we're not talking about the mast arms at this point.
No, ma'am.
No. So that's down the road.
In our preliminary discussion, yes, ma'am, like I said, we took a look at it. I believe what we would come back with is a proposal for steel poles at the northwest, southeast corner of the tunnels. With any possible future development and any need for a dedicated left or any turn lanes, you would want your mast arms. So installing a steel pole now gives you that option in the future.
And their contract reflects there's a line item for geotechnical evaluation, and that's because these steel poles require foundations and big, deep foundations. And then you literally bolt the pole to the top of the foundation, whereas the wooden poles can just be augered in and placed and guided back. But that adds, I believe, another $5,000 to the proposal. We took a look at their 2015 proposal. Holly and I looked at that earlier, and aside from the extra geo tech work on this, they were fairly close. We might be looking at about a 20% increase on the 2015 proposal that they gave us.
Around 75,000.
No, I'm talking just design right now.
Right. The
Contract.
proposal you have in front of you from OHM that he's referring to, the design work portion from OHM is 32,000. For them to be involved in the pre-construction and the construction phase services will be billed hourly, estimated to cost 20,000. So you're talking about 52,000 in addition to the 80,000 on light.
That's for them to tell us if we need a turn lane.
No.
That's just the pre-construction.
That doesn't include that.
That's just the construction phase.
Okay. Just to put up the red light, with no opinion from OHM as to whether we need a turn lane. We're talking about 80,000 plus the 32 plus the 20?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So it's gonna be somewhere around 130 to 140.
What if we don't ask OHM anything?
We just put it up ourselves. I'm not real sure how that addresses the driveway.
Well, that's a different.
Well, the driveways that are connected will be.
I mean, across the
right
street.
there. That will be part of their design. The two separate driveways on the.
Across the road.
Yeah, on the east side of Bethel. More than likely, the opinion of the engineers that they will have to be combined and aligned with the signal, and then they'll also have their own traffic signal there to get in and out because of that. There is a third driveway that kind of spurs off of that double wide at the southwest corner. That will be closed as part of this, but OHM was not directed to prepare any kind of study or whatnot on Vincent and Flores lights.
Let me ask you this, somewhere in the past week or two, I heard the number of around 200,000 to build a right turn lane?
We were really, really ballparking that. We don't know. It depends upon the length of the lane and whether there's adequate right of way.
And again, that would have to be built to TDOT standards.
Yes, sir.
For a state road. If there was any land acquisition that had to happen, the city would have to buy that.
Yes, sir.
So,
Okay, let me ask you this question then. So let's say, for instance, we do the minimum, we put in a light, just the minimum. Could the state at some time going forward then take over that traffic light, or would it always remain as the responsibility of the city of Millersville?
It's my understanding it will remain the ownership of the city and including.
Regardless.
I think what she's asking, if the traffic count got good enough that the warrants come along, could the state step in and say, hey, it warrants a turning lane, therefore we're gonna put the turning lane in?
That's possible. I think that's reasonable.
That's what I'm asking.
I don't know if they would necessarily force the city to do that, even though it's our signal. But OHM has proposed placing these poles to allow for that lane someday down the line, down the road, if you will. Say in 5 or 10 years, that a lane is determined, necessary, then we won't have to move the poles.
Okay.
That's part of the design that we're looking at now.
That was my reason to come back and look at it again within 5 years for the growth that was coming. That was all my.
I'd rather see this pay for the light, and let's OJT this thing on the jump train. Let's see what happens with the right turn, let's see what happens with the left-right off-roads. And we'll let the traffic flow teach us what we need to do next, other than spending another 32 or 52,000.
Well, we're gonna spend that regardless.
We'll spend that regardless.
Probably 80,000 for the light.
For the light,
But somebody has to
the
design.
installation of the light.
So you're talking about 80,000 plus.
Plus
132,000 total.
So we're just gonna line up there.
Yes. Assuming there's no right-of-way acquisition.
Okay.
All right, so anything further on Mrs. Coleman's amendment? If there's nothing further, we're gonna vote on Mrs. Coleman's amendment as to whether we need to hire OHM to tell us if we need a right turn lane and whether we need to shut those roads down.
No, that's not my amendment. That's not what I amended. My amendment was to, do this contract with OHM to spend the $32,000 to get the engineering ready to put in the traffic light. That's what my amendment was. It's not about those roads at this point, and it's not about the turning lane. My amendment is about us spending this
Well,
$32,000 to see about this. That's what my
If
amendment is.
we vote on the main motion,
That was my main.
the main motion will spend the 32,000 because the traffic light has to be designed. You can't just put it up.
I know, but I can't, I want to do one step at a time. I want to do the $32,000 first, get that spent, let's look at it, let's evaluate it, let's make sure it's $8,000. Let's make sure we have all that in line first, and then we'll look at voting on spending the other 20 plus 80 that we're talking about.
The amendment to the main motion is to spend the 32,000 to design the traffic light, correct?
Correct.
Which that 32,000 would go towards the placement of the light there.
Is there any further discussion on that?
Are we gonna go back to the first amendment after it's completed?
All right, hearing no further discussion.
Well, I do have discussion.
On that,
right?
Yeah, how, if we vote on this amendment to approve it, we're essentially voting for half of what the main motion was about, is that correct?
we're voting to amend the main motion
Yeah, I'm not real
to spend the 32,000 to design the light. And we can still vote on the light as to, we can put the light in, but we have to spend the 32,000 to design it, which we're gonna have to do regardless.
Yeah, regardless. Okay.
Well, the main motion stated that.
Yeah,
But she wants it specific.
okay, okay.
So is there any other discussion on that amendment? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, now we're going to the first amendment to amend the main motion. And that was to revisit in sometime in the next 5 years as to whether we need a right turn lane or whether the streets need to be closed down or turned into one way or anything else that may need to happen with that traffic light. Anybody?
Discussion.
Sure.
Do we want it 5 years or 4 years or 3 years?
It's within the 5 years. It could be.
I put 5 years on it because I feel like in 5 years, it could be evaluated to how much more traffic is gonna be created coming out from them developments.
So you'd be happy with, if we've started this study within 2 to 3 years?
Well, if you want to, but I put 5 out there because I figured within 5 years, we will know for sure what the traffic's gonna be there.
Yeah, well, I thought what you said was within 5 years. If there's a need, let's just say the state was to come up in 2 years and say, hey, the traffic light's not performing the way it should, you need to add a turning lane, or the state's gonna add the turning lane. So, in my opinion, we ought to just
Come back.
study it and adjust it as needed.
I guess what I'm not understanding is why 5 years? I mean, that really
It's
is
anytime.
irrelevant.
It's anytime within that 5 years.
It's so that we will look at it again.
It's gonna happen anyways, it's irrelevant, truly, in my opinion, because it's gonna depend on whether a year or 2, 3, 4, we can always come back at any time. It could be 7 years, we don't know.
You don't like what I'm gonna say.
I know what you're gonna say.
The 32,000 is irrelevant.
Yes, no, it's not, no, it's not, that's being physically minded and being responsible for what dollars we spend in the city for the taxpayers, and they know exactly what that
We
money
have to
is.
spend 32,000.
I know that, and we need a lot, but we need to know what that's going to look like, what that expense is gonna be. If there's anything else we can cut back on, if we can rearrange it some way, we do have to look at that.
And it just occurred to me that the current contract that was proposed did not include a construction cost estimate, I believe. And if we could modify or amend that contract, that with that 32,000 of the design services, that you also provide an estimate, a project cost estimate, if you will. That was in the 2015 proposal, but I think it was missed in this one. I think that's critical that
That's
all
critical.
of that number, that we know before we pull the trigger.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the first amendment? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Now we're back on the main motion. This is to whether we want to approve putting in a red light that we're gonna check on within the next 5 years. And we have agreed to spend the 32,000 to let OHM give us a cost analysis and a design to put this light in. Is there any discussion on that?
So how do I vote on this when I am agreeing to look at putting a traffic signal in, spending the 32,000, but I'm not agreeing to putting it in that signal until we know the numbers?
Just from my point of view, I will not vote to spend 32,000 and not put the light. Yeah, that's throwing money down a hole.
I just have to know those numbers. So I guess I'm not able,
I can't see spending $32,000.
We've been talking about this, what, 2 years, 3 years?
That's a lot
I've
of
been
money.
talking about it since I've been in, and that's 9.5 years ago.
We're
So I
okay, we're
agree.
financially able to put the light in.
But here's my thing, if that figure comes up to be an astronomical figure, all I'm saying is we have stopped at 32,000, period.
That's red light.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If that amount, that's what I'm saying, I don't know why we can't take it in baby steps, and that we do the 32,000, so we know we want a light, we know we need a light. But the fact that regardless of what, when we find out what that figure is, depending on where we are physically with our budgets, then at that time, we vote on moving forward this year or the next year with a red light at some point in the down road. Instead of just already automatically agreeing to something that we don't know the cost for sure.
Well, man, the same thing is, we can always go back and decide not to put the light in due to cost.
Matt, in your professional opinion, how long will those design plans, the construction plans, and possibly even a permit from the state be valid? I mean, down the road, could we wait 3 years before we pull the trigger on construction? Or do we have a year? Do we have 6 months?
I don't guess I understand because.
How good would your design and your permit from the state be good towards construction?
If we didn't construct, how long could we wait?
I do not know the answer to that question.
I would venture to say that the design you would stay acceptable for many years. The actual permit would probably have to be reviewed from the state.
I'm just not willing to commit to spend $32,000, and maybe we're gonna put a light in at the end of that. I mean, if we need a red light, we need a red light.
Great.
And the cost is irrelevant. Now, there is something else that I'm gonna bring up, and I sure hate to, but
Not a breezeway.
no, the property across from Bethel Road is currently for sale. It has 2 driveways that exit onto the highway. That is what the talk is about on signaling driveways out of that turn signal. That has to be reconfigured. Now, it is my opinion that if this city is gonna invest in putting a red light in there, and we are truly concerned about commercial growth around these intersections, I am of the opinion that the city should buy that property. It's about 5 acres. Have it prepared as a building lot, like Day Enterprises did out at the interstate. And when that red light goes in, that's gonna be a very attractive building lot for something like the dollar store or a drugstore or whatever. If we wanna have control of these intersections and have sales tax revenue, somewhere down the line, we have to take control. Just like we did across the road, we got tired of looking at trailers that was run down and didn't look well, so we bought it. And to me, that grass over there is worth the $100,000 we spent.
What's the cost of that property now?
It is my opinion that we could get it for somewhere around 2. Even if the city sold it to a developer for exactly what they give for it, you have to look at the sales tax revenue of that dollar store. It's $20,000–$25,000 a year. And it's gonna boost the sales revenue. And that lot looks a lot more attractive when it's cleared off and it's ready, build ready. It's ready to go in and build a building. It looks a lot more attractive to developers.
Exactly where is it?
Straight across from Bethel Road. Hendersonville does it all the time, Millersville does it, White House does it. And we're gonna get serious about controlling these intersections and what they look like. We're gonna have to step up to the plate.
You talk about the property, right about 31W coming out where the old motorcycle game is.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, it's been for sale for a little while. So that's something that we can put on a work session at a later date, but it's something that I would like y'all to at least think about.
What do you think the asking price would be?
It's listed for $265, but I believe it could be bought much cheaper than that.
I understand it's been a sale for quite some time.
It has. So, like I said, we can put that on a work session and discuss that later. You're never gonna move forward standing still.
No, and in that case, that is more of an investment for the city and will be, helpful for the taxpayers later on down the road, so that one I don't have as much issue on. However, if I vote on this, then you're saying that if that cost comes in astronomical,
If that
I
cost,
can come back and propose
to wait on that.
I mean, all it takes is a motion. And, you know,
Cause I want the light, believe me.
you're talking about, based on what they're telling us, if we spend the 32,000,
I just need to be mindful.
we're looking at about $100,000 to put the light in, correct?
132 is what we estimated.
Well, that's what I said, if we spend the 32,
Yes.
Yeah.
we're looking at about 100,000 to put the light
Yes.
Correct.
in.
With steel poles,
On two sides.
two sides.
No arms.
We don't have arms.
No.
All right, we're gonna vote on the main motion. The main motion was to approve the 32,000, the 20,000, and the 80,000 to put the light
Within 5 years, we'll look at it again.
in. And within 5 years, we'll look at it again.
Not put the light in, just
Is there any further discussion?
Just, can you authorize me to sign the contract, the proposal?
And it will authorize Holly to send the contract.
As long as it's amended to reflect.
Then Bonnie can bring it up tonight.
No, the contract will be amended to include an engineer's cost estimate. of the project.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And if I could just speak to that, it is included under tax item.
It's there, okay.
I apologize.
All right, is there any further discussion?
Yeah.
Everybody's clear on what we're doing? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, item number 20, citizens' comments. Anybody?
That's it, 19.
Oh. Action requiring the identity of complaint on a code violation. Call for a motion.
Move that we require the identity on complaint violation. Code violation.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes by vote 4-1. Now, item number 20, citizens' comments. Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
Terry Lewis from the library for September stuff, everything's coming up for October. I guess I'll start with good news that the air is fixed and so are our computers, just in time for it to cool down. Yeah, just in time for it to cool down, we turned the heat on today. So we'd like to thank Sumner County School Maintenance for fixing the air, Sumner County Maintenance for fixing something on our roof, but I guess maybe that's where the lighting hit. And then Sumner County IT Department and also Tennessee State IT for helping us fix our computers.
I think you can call
I do not.
Good.
I have a few more if anyone wants any. In September, we had 31 programs and 505 people attended those. We had 1,334 books circulate. And then we also hired a new children's assistant. Her first day was today. We're really excited to have it filled. We're fully staffed now. This Saturday, we've got Trick or Treat coming up. It is from 11 to 2. There's going to be little stations all around the library. There's going to be a little activity, like making lollipop ghosts or spiders and witches' hats out of Oreos. And they get to go around and do the activities. And then have a scavenger hunt for poems around the library. And when they complete it, they get a free book. It's open to all the kids. Everybody's welcome. We're encouraging wearing costumes, so a little early Halloween activity. We've also got a bake sale starting tomorrow, sponsored by our Library Friends group. So if you want to come on down, everything's 50 cents. Ms. Birdie even contributed. We also, in November, we're looking at having a blue jean and jacket swap. This is for the whole community. It's free. We're hoping, we've got drop-offs starting at the library now, and we're getting in touch with businesses around Millersville. What you do is you drop off blue jeans or any kind of jacket, and you get a ticket, and then you come down to the library November 10th and you can exchange that ticket for a brand new pair of jeans, well, not brand new, another donated pair. But we're hoping it helps like kids who are outgrowing their jeans and they can exchange them. There's also maybe gonna be a silent dessert auction. That's something to look forward to in November. Brownies.
And I did get an email today, I believe y'all, someone has requested that the city, be a drop-off location and hand out the tickets.
Yes.
So I had, I haven't talked with Deborah about it yet, I forwarded her the email, we were a little busy today, but I know that the library did request that we be a drop-off location. That's what I was gonna talk to Deborah, it's just a matter of, do you all furnish bins, or do we have
We'll bring boxes up here, and all you have to do is, they give you jeans and you give them a little ticket and that's it. And
Does
we'll
it
come
matter
pick it
the condition or anything, we just,
we hope
well,
that
so-
they're not in tatters,
right.
but no, I don't think there's.
Some of them you buy already.
Right.
What about doctors?
Just blue jeans.
Denim on
Yes. But the jackets, it doesn't matter the kind of jackets. We are in between winter coats, it could be right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, now we're down to citizens' comments. Any more?
My name's Larry Petty, I live 105 Echo Lane. And I understand how you folks feel, big time do I understand how they feel. Because y'all know what's going in behind me, and they don't realize, this all started in my property 2015. It's to 2018, it's gonna be 2020 before it's really finished. But I sympathize with them, but it's called progress. And when you get 100 people a day coming to Nashville, they gotta go somewhere. They can't, like that one gentleman said, they can't live in Redwood because they can't afford it. So look out for your peace and solitude, and just times. And I hate it for them, because I know exactly how they feel, because I went off these walls in 2015 more than once, and, I heard the gavel more than once, but, it doesn't do any good. Just bite your tongue and say, I don't want it, but here it is.
Anyone else?
I just like to thank everybody sitting around this table tonight for their dedication to this community.
Amen.
It's a call that's not for everybody, and I know you take a lot of flack, and you don't one night, but I appreciate everything you're doing. That's right.
Amen.
Anyone else?
Deanna Barr at 1341, no,
No,
the old address,
we moved.
1017 Brookview Court. You may have already discussed this in the past, but I really haven't been at any meetings. Has there been any discussion or consideration of a roundabout instead of a red traffic light at that Bethel Road entrance? Because you're gonna hold up all that traffic at that red light with that ridge being there. I guess I'm just thinking about accidents that are gonna occur. And then you have better flow of the traffic if anyone's experienced roundabouts before.
The ones that I've experienced are not gonna work well with tractor and trailers.
Even considering that the city may buy that property.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, when there's a wreck on 65.
Yeah.
There have to turn.
It will function exceptionally well with a roundabout. I didn't put her on purpose.
No,
But we are on the same page.
But we do appreciate your opinion.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyone else? All right, city manager's comment.
Just want to pass out, we approved, you all approved the one-year contract extension for Rogers Group. I just want to pass, I'll take one back down. Jerry got us a notated list. We did get an estimate on the Darby Road, not all of it, but just on some information on a small section. I guess it's the worst section of Darby, and the cost ended up being about 36. That's worst case scenario. if we added that section of Darby, with striping and all that, would put us around, worst case scenario, 203. Best case scenario could be 187, so we've got, some leeway there, so I didn't know if it was okay with y'all, if we go ahead and add that. Small
All right.
section of Darby. Okay.
Is this that section that's really beat up?
Where the trucks are coming, the
But are
trucks.
we gonna do something?
We are,
Yes.
and Michael just gave me a rough copy of it that will be on the
Okay, as
work
long as we
session.
do something prior to
Yes, sir.
putting the pavement down,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's gonna get torn up.
Exactly. And Roger's group is pretty much ready to go once we, submit this contract, it's
Sounds good to
sent
me.
it back, and, so we can,
And that weight limit will be on the next work session.
yes, okay.
Sounds good.
Anything else?
Oh, just one other thing. Now since the election is coming up November 6th, typically the November meeting will have the public hearing, but there will not be any business on the November regular meeting. It'll be the swearing in of the new commissioners who are elected. We'll go ahead and I guess approve the minutes of the city commission and
Turn it over to you.
I can't remember if it's the minutes or and the financials. I'll have to look back, but,
It's everything down to the swearing.
right.
Yeah.
And then I'll go ahead and get in touch with the city judge and we'll have him do the swearing in, so.
I just have one question. If the public hearing is gonna happen on the rezoning, is that gonna be the best night for that?
We can push that to the December meeting if y'all want to. I don't think it's, very pressing. That way we would just have it strictly as the swearing in. That's normally what we do. We don't have any business. The only thing is we did announce that at the meeting tonight.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, because we have all the names of the people that's here. Could we just send them something, basically telling them because of the election, the public hearing on the rezoning is going to be pushed back to December, and the vote will be on December?
Everybody that signed the petition, evidently Mr. Fuquay knows.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's 5 pages of names.
Gotta be, put in paper.
The public hearing, notice would be prior to second reading. So what we would do is we'd have the public hearing on the December meeting and then the second reading also. But we could have the public hearing anytime without the second reading, but normally, like I said, on the November, with an election year, we normally don't have business. It is the swearing in, but it's up to you guys.
As long as we
A
notify
notification to be out for the public hearing too.
Huh?
There's a notification has to go out for the public hearing.
It will have to go out before the meeting, but it's just a question of, do we want to have the public hearing in November or December? Because the advertisement hadn't went out yet.
Okay, is that one out?
Well, and it'll just go into the local paper, so.
Good advertised.
The only thing I would say is that we need to mail every one of these addresses something. Telling them.
even a postcard that says the public meeting has, public hearing has been reset to December, et cetera.
Exactly.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right, commissioners' comments.
All right, I got a comment.
Mr. Bell.
R30 is 30,000 square feet.
Minimum lot size, yes, sir.
R4, what is it?
In our zoning, R4 is 20,000 square feet.
R5.
10,000 square feet.
So R3 is what?
40,000 square feet.
Basically an acre.
So an acre. Yeah, 44,000 square feet.
R2 is 2.5 acres, and R1 is 5
So
acres.
what was Robinson County? They were looking to go to R20.
In my conversations with their planner, they could easily go down to R20 or even
Which is
R10.
what, 20,000?
Yes, sir. Yeah, their zoning number correlates directly with 1,000 square feet.
Let me ask you this, since we're gonna push back the public hearing to December, therefore that's gonna push the vote back to December, would you have time to speak to the property owner about R4 to get their
Certainly.
opinion on that?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Technically, though, it should if we're changing, you've already voted for the first reading of the R5, according to our code, it should go back to the planning commission for their endorsement or not, and then come back to the
And
city.
if that's just go ahead.
If that's all we need to do, we can do it. We can send it to the, if they would,
But you've already voted on it, and that's,
well, what I'm fixing to say, if they, let's just say they said that would work for them. It could go back to the planning commission in November.
yes,
And then we could amend the ordinance that sets the zone
yes,
in December
yes,
and do the second reading.
yes. I'm not sure how the public hearing portion would work, because typically that precedes the zoning ordinance that you're going to amend. So,
And if
that you
they,
may amend, so I'm not quite sure how.
and it would, I mean,
procedurally.
if we're pushing the public hearing back to December, once
We
you
can-
have the planning
we can
commission meeting
amend it
in November.
At the night of the hearing from R5 to R4.
Are you,
I mean,
Well-
first reading is nothing more than getting it noticed.
yes, in this case, I mean, the first reading is done, but my concern is the public hearing will be advertised for R5.
Okay, but if you send it to the planning commission in November, that's the
Yes.
second week in November. And let's just say the planning commission says that they're fine with the recommendation to go to R4 instead of R5. Then we could send the advertisement out as it's, that you're looking at that it's scheduled to be zoned R5, maybe an amendment to R4.
Well, you really only have to put out that the public hearing is to determine whether or not, what the public comments are in regards to R5. That's all that has to go out. If we lower that zoning to R4, we can do it by amendment, just like we did on the traffic light.
Correct.
We don't have to send out any more notices or anything. We can do it right here. We are telling the public to come in to discuss R5, and we're actually agreeing with what some of the public said tonight, moving it to R4. But we don't need to say that we're considering amending that, because we may not amend it. It depends on what he finds out from the owner.
Yeah, I would talk to the property owner,
Yes.
and then if it needs to go back to the planning commission, send it back in November, and then the board will take it up in December.
Now, here's one of the things I noticed, that 18707 was zoned to R4. Is that correct? And that is contiguous. Ordinance, first reading of ordinance 18707. We assigned residential R4.
That's the Southwood
the
Road.
parcel of Holloway.
By Holloway, but it's contiguous. It's contiguous. So
Actually, it's surrounded entirely.
By 18706, correct?
No.
No, okay, so by
Different road.
18706 included two parcels, the Barron parcel
Okay,
and the Nash parcel.
okay, well, that Nash parcel has to be R5 because it's only about.
No. No, it's.
It would
0.8
work
acres.
better for her getting her setbacks.
Yeah, that's what
It's
she
the reason
said. That's what she
she
said.
Yes.
And I don't think there's an issue with leaving her zoning R5. Is there?
The public that appeared here tonight seemed to be agreeable that she should be R5, but disagreeable that her adjoining neighbor should be R5. So where do you draw the line? They draw the line there.
Well, and
Lot
that's,
size.
Yeah,
and that's,
It's by lot size, correct?
Generally, except in this case, this lot is long and narrow, and that change from 5 to 4 would, at the very least, tighten the side setbacks.
oh, well, we're not asking you to change it from R4, R5 to
I understand.
R4.
well, let me ask you this, if her lot was R4, let's just say all of it was R4, could she petition for
A variance?
a variance or a
Yes.
special exception?
Yes.
Isn't it? Yeah, okay.
That was
I would
from the
talk
planning
to,
commission?
Yes.
the property owner of the
Actually,
26
more
acres.
in the fields.
Okay.
Vice versa.
I talked to the property owner of the 26 acres and get a feel for what they And we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Any more comments? That's all. It's gone.
All I've got to say is, like I said earlier in the meeting, Mayor, we've never annexed anyone in the city that would have not requested. And I would never do it unless they requested. So that was the reason I voted for it. I had a lot of people out there that I knew, they called me, talked to me. And I told them, I said, look, I've got to go the best way I think it would be for the city. And so that's the reason I've done it, and I feel like that's the best move.
Yes.
I agree.
I mean, I've never annexed anybody in the city. We've had several conversations, but every one of them has always been by request. Matter of fact, Ms. Chadwick, they requested, and they got annexed in. But as far as I know, we've never took anyone in, I never have annexed in without being requested.
Back in the 90s, there were multiple annexations.
Yes, they were.
And they would be in this era considered hostile.
Yes.
They were, and they generated litigation and lawsuits. And in some cases, it remained. In other cases, some parcels were pulled out, and some other changes were made. And in fact, at one point, I think we annexed lands that were already in Ridgetown. But that's neither here nor there.
Some of those that happened in the 80s and 90s were hostile.
Yes.
If we were to consider annexing these properties tonight based on cost effectiveness and budgetary reasons, we're losing money on annexing them in. And if the people had not asked for it to be annexed, I would not have voted for it. But the thing about it is, you know,
well,
if they're gonna ask for annexation, it's so that they can improve their property. And, you know, that one lady can't even perk. If the property doesn't perk, she can't occupy.
Well, the city doesn't make any money on the sewer. It basically pays for itself. And the taxes generated by residential does not pay for the fire, police, streets, and everything else that goes along with being in the city. The city loses. So, the only thing we get is the rooftops that hopefully down the road attracts business.
Like in the back of the Golden subdivision, that last row of houses out there, they were paying out of city sewer services. So they asked to be annexed into the city for that purpose there. Like I say, everybody's been annexed in years, a lot of years here, they've been asked. They've asked to come in. Just like Jackson Heights up there. You know, you studied that up there too. And them first few houses up there on the left, they wanted annexed in.
And there's a lot of people inside that subdivision that would like to be annexed in now, simply for the sewer. But because their neighbors do not, they know it's not gonna happen.
Well, if I could interject.
We do not want to annex any property that is not contiguous to city limits.
But we legally can.
Legally or not, I will never vote to annex anybody in whose property is not contiguous to the city limits.
I agree with that.
I agree too. I mean, that's what I was fixing to say. The mayor was right. We had several people a few years ago, they wanted to be annexed in up there, but it was gonna be skipping like 10 houses.
I'm not gonna vote for it.
Well, if you go to Jackson Heights and let's just say there's 50 houses down there, 25 on the right and 25 on the left. If you get 5 on the left and 10 on the right that wanna be annexed into the city, you've gotta run the sewer through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Just to get those,
And we would prepare a fee assessment for those property owners to pay for those improvements on top of it.
Who pays? They need to get all their neighbors together and come to a consensus, and then approach the city if that's what they
And I will
want.
say, your people who do take care of your billing, your city services,
yes,
are not least, they very much appreciate that. It
Well,
is
it's
so
$3
hard
an hour.
to try to figure out who's in the city, who's not in the city, when it comes to billing, census, everything. It's a nightmare. So they appreciate it.
All right, the only thing I have, again, I do wish y'all would give some serious thought to the property across from the end of Bethel Road. Think about it. Monty's a real estate agent. She can look into what benefits there are there. To me, it makes sense. We want to control certain areas in the city, certain intersections, make them attractive to businesses. And I believe that would go a long ways to attracting.
It's sort of like what Millersville did for Kentucky Fried Chicken down there, across from the Kroger's parking lot. If you'll look to see how they did that light there and how they built that property there. And it was actually convenient for KFC as well as the public. And it cut down on a lot of wrecks.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's over.
I was listening.
Oh, I know, sorry.
I think that is they're having their little meeting, trying to figure out what to
It's just nothing.